What I want to talk to you today is about a concept on personal branding based around what I refer to as the gift of GAB. Now, the Irish, as you know, are famous for the gift of GAB, which some people say is our ability to spew out voluminous torrents of words without pausing for breath. Others say it's our ability to paint evocative word pictures that has the listener crying sorrowful tears into the pint of Guinness, while in the background someone is singing Danny Boy, and they're doing it out of tune, of course. Others say that the Irish are good at the gift of GAB because we're good at BS. Now, as I come from a business background, and BS to me means breakthrough strategy, I'm okay with that. But the gift of GAB that I want to talk to you today is a concept based around the acronym GAB, which stands for Goals, Attitude, Behaviour. Goals, Attitude, Behaviour. Basically what I want to cover today is a strong belief of mine that while you get to the interview because of your resume does not get you the job, right? It is how you actually connect with that recruiter, how you connect with that employer is what will determine whether or not they will offer you the job. You may well be in competition with people who have got very much similar skill sets to you, very much similar experience to you, and very much similar contacts as well. At the end of the day, despite all of the technology that is out there, all of the testing, it really does come down at the end of the day when things are very, very close to gut feel, and whether or not the recruiter feels that you are the right fit for their organisation and for their company. And what I want to talk to you today is some ideas that will help you to create that right brand and create that right fit or perceived fit for the organisation as well. Because the bottom line is, my background is sales and marketing in leadership roles in Ireland, the US and in the UK. But the bottom line is, people buy brand. And it isn't just buying brand when it comes to cars or when it comes to dishwashers or washing machines that you press 14 times, is it, to reduce the water that isn't going to come from the machines, whatever Donald Trump says. People that buy chocolate, they buy beer because of brand. And ultimately, your recruiter, your interviewer, is going to buy you because of the connection that he or she feels with you. You got it? Okay. So, what we'll do is, we'll have a look at goals, attitude, and behaviour. Imagine that you were coming from the northern suburbs this morning, or someone was coming from the northern suburbs this morning. We'll call him Bob, okay? There's no Bob here, is there? No, all right. So Bob is coming from the northern suburbs, leaves his house, starts driving aggressively, gets onto the highway, is driving as fast as he can, and he sees a clear path in front of him until someone in a Toyota Prius comes into his fast lane. Someone in a Toyota Prius that Bob absolutely knows is driven by someone who has got a hippie, vegan-loving, a tree-hugging, save the whale kind of a background, okay? Their main purpose in life is to not just reduce their own carbon footprint, but the cars behind them as well. Bob eventually gets by this car and then starts driving as fast as he can again. Then he honks a horn at a car in front of him that has the temerity to stop at a yellow light. A yellow light in Chicago, I mean, who does that? Except the person in front of Bob. He eventually gets past that car, flips the finger at someone else who's driving too slow for him, and then Bob takes a sharp turn right and comes to a complete stop. And he's inside in the Starbucks drive-thru. And he counts the number of cars in front of him. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 cars. Bob knows, because he does this every morning, it'll take him about 12 minutes to get out of there. Okay? So Bob eventually orders his low-fat frappuccino with added whipped cream, gets his drink, and then drives as fast and aggressively as possible to his workplace, where actually the car that's parked beside him happens to be the Toyota Prius that he was given out about. Now, a couple of questions there. One is, if Bob spends 12 minutes in the drive-thru 5 days a week, how much time is that in a week? An hour, okay? Let's say he does that 48 weeks of the year. How many hours is that? Which is effectively, a work week, 6 days work week, okay, all right. Why does someone, there's two questions that arise from this. Based on what I said there, first question is, how many Toyota Prius drivers have I offended? Okay, the second question is, why does a hard driving person like Bob spend 6 days of the year in a drive-thru? There's no logic to it. It's the brand though, yeah? What happens is that Bob isn't involved in what I would call a commercial experience there, or a commercial transaction. He's involved in what I would call is an emotional transaction. And if I refer to the emotional transaction as the acronym is an ET moment, okay? How many of you have seen ET, the movie? Okay, virtually everyone, right? Do you remember that scene in the movie where Elliot, the young kid, cuts his finger? And in a wonderful moment, E.T. actually reaches out, touches fingers with Elliot, and the audience reaction is, yeah? All right. That's what I refer to as an E.T. moment. It's something that's beyond just pure logic. And what you've got to try and do in your job search, when you're at networking events, when you're at the interview, is to try and create some kind of an E.T. moment, not necessarily kind of from the interviewer, but maybe from the interviewer, and you get the interviewer actually thinking about, all right, this differentiates this candidate Al from Diane, because the bottom line is your resume will not get you the job. It's your connection, your interaction, your fit as they perceive it for the organization. So this leads me now to the first question I want to put to you. And I think that when you're going for an interview, you need to have a clear idea as to what it is you want the interviewer to say about you after you leave the room. Let's assume that 6 of you are in for the same job, okay? And you have been interviewed by 3 people throughout the day. When those 3 people get together, so let's say it's me, Paul, and let's say Al get together. What is it that we will say about Katie? What is it we will say about Diane? What is it we will say about Nancy? And that is what we're looking for, okay? Because we see, they've all got the same level of experience. They've all got roughly the same kind of industries that they've worked in as well. They're a good fit in that sense, but what is it? So I think that one of the critical things that you need to pay attention to before you go into the interview is have a clear idea as to what it is you want the recruiter to say about you after you leave. And what I actually encourage you to do, and we'll explore this now a bit further, is to write down 3 attributes that you want the recruiter to say about you. So let's say Fred might say kind of a team worker. Dave might say innovative, or someone else might say a good leader somewhere, or something like that. But unless you know what you want them to think about you, and unless you know what the attributes are that you feel they should know about you, I think you're not going to actually get those across. And one of the really important things that people need to pay attention to before that interview, and have a clear idea of what it is before the interview, is what I want them to say about me. And if I know what I want them to say about me, if I know that teamwork is important, I've got to figure out how I can get that across. Do I have anecdotes that I can just drop at a moment's notice about teamwork? Do I have anecdotes that I can drop at a moment's notice to show that I'm innovative, or that I've got good marketing skills, whatever it is? But it's about having a clear goal and a clear vision as to what success looks like. One of the simple ways to look at this is to actually, when you're looking at the ad for the job or similar jobs, look at the attributes that they are actually referencing in the ads and say to yourself, all right, what attributes there in this job or in similar kind of jobs do I have that I can actually project very aggressively and positively in the interview? But I do believe that one of the best ways for you to prep for an interview is to make sure you know what you want them to say about you. So I think you need to have a clear vision as to what you want to be famous for. Now, By that I mean, we'll ask you to think about this in a second, write the answer down to it, because it's on that question here. The question is, what do I want to be famous for? Now, by that I mean, I don't mean something like famous as in Lady Gaga or Kanye West or something like that. That might be nice, you might be making more money. But I mean, what do I want to be famous for within my job search environment? What is it that I want people to say about me after a networking event, after an interview? What is it that I want them to say about me? Because what they say about me is my brand. Okay? Now, while I think about it, I've used the word Paul mentioned that I banned the word that begins with U from your vocabulary. Okay? What's the word, Nancy? You know it? Yeah. Okay, all right. No one here should think they're unemployed. You're in job search. You're in looking for something new. But job search and branding is about what people say about you. The words you use will determine your behaviour. And if you walk in and you tell someone, I'm unemployed, you're feeling crap when you say it for a start. It's self-defeating. Whereas if you go in and say, I'm in job search, I think it says something totally different. So one of the things I actually do recommend is people ban the word unemployed from their vocabulary. The other word, I think, and this goes back to kind of goals and reframing things, I tell people you should stop going to networking meetings. And some people are saying, yes, at last. Paul is having a heart attack. Paul is having a heart attack. All right. Why do I say stop going to networking meetings? Let's be honest. You're tired of going to networking meetings, yeah? Yeah. I mean, it really fills you with a thrill when you say, I'm going off to another networking meeting. And your partner is absolutely delighted that you're going off to another networking meeting. Oh, yippee. All right. So stop going to them. But go to the meeting that is billed as a networking meeting and treat it as a sales call, or treat it as a business development call. If you go on a business development call, you're going to have a different mindset, a different attitude walking into that business development call than if you go to a networking meeting. Do you get the logic of it? Yeah, all right. Because that's what you're doing. You are actually trying to develop business at this, but you forget that. You're just kind of saying, I'm going networking. But I tell you what, if you start getting into the mindset that I'm going to a business development call or a sales call, you'll walk in there feeling more alert, more confident than if you're just going to another networking meeting. How many people here are in, now this isn't the trick question, how many people here, their profession is sales? Okay? You know you make sales calls after sales calls and they often don't come through, but you still go ahead and do it. All right? It's the same with this networking events that I'm suggesting you reframe. Treat them as a sales call. And maybe the first sales call hasn't been successful, but that doesn't mean the next sales call isn't going to be successful, or the one after that. So 2 words I suggest you drop from your vocabulary: unemployment and networking. Okay? Right. What do I want to be famous for? Is a question I want you to think about. And basically what I'm saying here is, what is it that someone after the business development meeting will say about you? What is it after the interview someone will say about you? So let's go to this business development meeting at the moment that sometimes is billed as a networking event. What is it you want people to say about you after the business development meeting? Here's the thing. The people that you meet at the business development meetings, you know, you walk in and you do your elevator pitch. And then you get an elevator pitch from 7 other people. And you're really paying attention, I'm sure. And you really are, yeah? Okay, all right. Some of you are suggesting that I might be a little bit sarcastic there, all right? You're not really interested in what they're about. You're only interested in what you can get out of the business development meeting. What do you think might be the most important question you could ask at a business development stroke networking meeting?
What can I do for you? How can I help you?
How can I help you? Yeah. If you ask that question, how can I help you at these networking business development meetings? Guess what? People are actually going to start paying attention to you. If you give your elevator pitch again, that you now say by rote, people are not paying a lot of attention to you. They will pay attention to you if you offer to help them. People will not connect with you after the business development stroke networking meeting because you've got a wonderful elevator pitch. They might connect with you if you're likable or optimistic, like what Mike was saying, but they're much more likely to connect with you if they believe that you are helpful. And that is, I think, the objective that each of you should have going to these business development meetings. What do I want to be famous for? I want to be famous for helping other people who are in a similar situation to me. Now you've got to decide how you're going to do that. I'll give you, in the time I've got, I'll give you 5 little tips that will help each of you chaps here to create a better brand and brand experience for yourself and for the people that you're dealing with. Now, the idea here is that we're talking about goals, attitude, and behavior. The basic, I talk about macro goals and then micro goals. The macro goal is, what do I want to be famous for? What is it I want people to say about me? And if you can get people saying positive things about you after a business development meeting, they're going to help to refer you. They're going to try and connect you with other people. Similarly with the job interview, if they say positive things about you, you'll probably get called back, something like that. So that's the macro goal. What do I want to be famous for? The micro goal I want to talk to you about is the way that you get to the macro goals. And I'm going to provide you chaps now with 5 macro goals that will help, micro goals that will help you to get this well-paying job and create a good brand experience for you and for the people around you as well. So I'll ask you a couple of questions to get to this. The first question I want to ask you is, would you agree that if someone compliments you, you feel better about yourself? Yeah? Would you agree that if someone compliments you, you feel more motivated? Yeah? Okay, let's turn it. Would you agree that if you compliment someone, they're likely to feel better about themselves?
Yes.
Yeah? Would you agree that if you compliment someone, they're likely to feel more motivated?
Yes.
Right. If they feel better about themselves and feel more motivated because of something you said, what are they going to think about you? You're helpful or positive, yeah? Okay. The basic logic behind this is that micro goals, the power of micro goals. And Anthony Trollope, he was an English 19th century author, he said that a small daily task, if truly done daily, will beat the labours of a spasmodic Hercules. A small daily task, if truly done daily, will beat the labours of a spasmodic Hercules. And the basic logic behind that is that if you were to take something like, how many people here do their own yard work or mow their own lawn kind of thing, okay? Quite a few of you, all right? So, wrong time of the year now. But let's assume that we're getting into April and you decide, so let's say Diane and Nancy are neighbours. Diane decides that for 15 minutes every day for the month of April, let's say 30 days of the month, she's actually out in the garden working. So after 7.5 hours at the end of April, she's got a pretty tidy garden. Nancy, on the other hand, so you get small daily tasks. Nancy, on the other hand, just takes the spasmodic labours of a Hercules, okay? And goes out on the last Saturday of the month, spends 7.5 hours out in the garden and can't walk the following morning. Or the next week probably, yeah. And you don't have a garden that's nearly as nice as Diane's, all right? A small daily task, if truly done daily, will beat the labours of a spasmodic Hercules. And what I'm getting here to you chaps is that these small daily tasks that I'm going to give you, that actually happen to spell out the acronym CHAPS, okay? That's why I'm referring to everyone in the room as CHAPS. I know it's more of a male-orientated phrase, but forgive that. These 5 daily tasks will help you to feel better about yourself. The logic behind micro goals, and this is really important for you in job search, where it's difficult for you to stay motivated, is that when you achieve a goal, we've got neurotransmitters in our brain, okay? And those neurotransmitters will kick in when you feel positive, something happens, something positive happens, you feel better about yourself, and as a result of that, you're more motivated to make it happen again, okay? So it's the neurotransmitter, primary one is dopamine. If something positive happens, kicks in, makes you feel better about yourself. The idea behind micro goals is that if you set something as a micro goal and you achieve it, so let's take the example of, I'll set myself a micro goal that this afternoon I will compliment one person. So when you compliment one person this afternoon, because you've set it as a micro goal, you'll hear yourself complimenting that person, the dopamine kicks in, I feel better about myself. But what about the person that you've complimented? They're going to feel way better as well, and they're going to probably appreciate you more. Micro goals are powerful in any environment. For job seekers who need lifts consistently, I think they're really powerful. So the first element is compliment. The second element in creating a great brand for you and creating a brand experience for people around you is H, and H is for hear. And by hear, I mean hear the words thank you at least once a day. Now, you may well have been thanked by someone this morning for something, but it kind of went over your head. All right? What I'm saying to you is to set yourself a deliberate, intentional goal that I'm going to do something to hear and generate the words thank you. So what will happen is that, let's say you could make a phone call to someone and wish them the best of luck or give them a little bit of help when they're prepping for an interview, all right? So when you put down that phone, that person has said thank you, you've set yourself as a micro goal, you put the phone down, you've heard the words thank you, you've achieved your micro goal, the dopamine is kicking in, I feel better about myself because I've heard the word thank you. But what about the person you've helped? What about the person you've reached out and done something for? They're going to be saying positive things about you. They're going to be your brand ambassador going forward. Why? Because you made a simple effort to reach out and help them and do something. But you did it in a deliberate way. So the goals are, chaps, compliment. I will compliment one person a day. 2, I will hear the words thank you based on an intentional thing I will do to make someone feel better or make life easier for someone today. A, chaps, is for address. Now, by address here, I don't mean that little pink chiffon outfit that I was wearing at the weekend that was posted on Facebook. That should not have gone out, okay? By address here, I mean address people with their name when you're in conversation with them. One of the best ways for you to connect with your interviewer is at least 2 or 3 times, let's say in a 45-minute interview, you actually address them with their name. Let's take a little example here. Let's assume that you were at a networking event. No, you weren't. You were at a business development event, weren't you? Very good. All right. Okay. Yeah. So let's assume you were at a business development event, and there's a few people. Katie and Susie are over here talking, and Fred and Diana are over here. Okay. And Fred and Diana have no idea what has actually been said until someone mentions, on this side of the room, Fred's name. And Fred, actually, your ears perk up. We've all had this experience, yeah? Diane's ears don't perk up because her name hasn't been mentioned, but yours do, and you're trying to, what did they say? The reason why that happens is that the most impactful words in your vocabulary is your name. The most impactful words in the people you're speaking to in their vocabulary is their name. And I'm absolutely convinced that when it comes to the interview or these business development meetings, that if you actually once or twice during conversation actually mention the person's name and address them with their name, you're going to make a more visceral connection than if you don't mention the name. Another way to look at it would be, let's assume that you go to the local supermarket at the weekend and you go up with your groceries and you land them on the desk, and you say the local kid from the high school, let's say Wheaton High School, is on the desk, and you go up and you say, "Hey Jeff, how are you?" Now Jeff's first reaction is, "How does she know my name?" But he's forgotten he's got his badge on. All right? But once Jeff actually hears his name, he's paying way more attention to you. There's a smile on his face. He's connecting with you. Why? Because you addressed him with his name. A simple exercise that everyone here should actually work on when you go to these business development meetings is set yourself that micro goal that when I'm in conversation with each person going forward, at least once I will mention their name when I'm speaking with them. And what you will find initially is that, this is a bit unusual, all right? But what you will find though is that if someone actually is talking to you and addresses you with your name, you actually do pay a little bit more attention. The interviewer that you're speaking with, if you can get into the habit of just finding one reason to compliment that interviewer or the company or maybe just the office space or the results that they had in the last couple of months. If you can get into the habit of actually finding some reason for them to say thank you to you, and they'll probably say thank you if you compliment them or the company. If you address them with their name, you're going to be making more of a connection than the people who don't use these chaps lessons. So we've got compliment, hear the words thank you, address people with their name. P is for positive. And by positive here, I mean my micro goal is that I will use at least one positive word or phrase in conversation with someone today. Now, we've all worked with Debbie Downer and her twin brother, Danny Downer. They were not identical twins. So, you know that Debbie or Danny Downer can suck the energy out of a room. And the way they do it primarily is by making negative comments or using negative phrases. The opposite can also occur. And if you can get into the habit of using positive words and positive phrases in conversation, what's actually going to happen is that it's going to seep into that person's perception that, hey, this person is positive. This person has an upbeat attitude. And if you can get into the habit of using words like amazing, positive words like amazing, brilliant, cheerful, delightful, energetic, friendly, Guinness. Guinness is a positive word to Irish people. After a while, what will start happening is that people will actually be referring to you or the vibe or the atmosphere that you create as being amazing, friendly, as amazing, brilliant, cheerful, delightful, energetic, friendly, and they'll ask you to go for a Guinness. Okay? Right. But it doesn't happen just because you want it to happen. You got to make it happen. And it's like when I asked the question, what do you want people to say about you at the business development meeting? And Mike came out with positive or optimistic. They're really powerful things. And if you can give the impression that you're a positive person, an optimistic person at the interview, you have a much better chance of getting the job than someone who comes across as being kind of, I'm sure I'm glad to be here, kind of, yeah, maybe, yeah, right. So we've got compliment, hear the words thank you, address people with name, positive words, final one, and then I'll finish up with one little other story, is, what do you think S stands for? Smile, okay? Now, I don't mean that you have a goal to smile, but that's going to come in a second. Your goal is that I'm going to put a smile on one person's face today. Now, if you put a smile on someone's face, what are you then going to do?
Smile back.
Smile back, okay? So you've achieved that smile goal anyway. But if you have set yourself a goal that at a business development meeting or at the interview, I'm going to find some way to put a smile on a person's face, what's going to happen is that when you see that smile appearing on a person's face, you realize I've achieved another goal, the dopamine kicks in, I feel better about myself, and if I feel better about myself, I'm going to perform better. If you can find ways to implement these 5 chaps concept on a daily basis, you're going to feel better about yourself at a time when a lot of you in a time when a lot of you have a lot of opportunity to feel crap about yourself. It doesn't happen just because you want it to happen. You got to make it happen. You know that there's a myth called ageism. Oh, it's not a myth, no? No, okay. Very briefly, I'll tell you how to ace this ageism thing, or how to address it anyway. And as you can gather, when it comes to the gift of GAB, goals, attitudes, behaviour, the Irishman used an acronym. Chaps, he used an acronym, all right? ACE is about 3 things that you consider when you're going for this interview. The first one is, what do I add to the company? What will I add to the company? And don't believe that saying experience is enough. You need to be able to articulate what it is that will add to this organization and convince the interviewer that I will be able to add something. The second one, where I think a lot of boomers do fall down, is contemporary. All right? You need to be able to convince the person who's 20 years younger than you, who might be the age of your son or your daughter who's now interviewing you, and you know your son or your daughter thinks that you're a fuddy-duddy, way past it kind of thing. All right, okay? So maybe the recruiter has the same kind of feeling. You need to be able to convince that recruiter, especially in the initial stages, that you are contemporary and you're clued in as to what is happening in the world. Right? So that's why I ask questions like, are you on Twitter? Are you on Facebook? Probably most people are. But the person who's interviewing you, quite likely, just before you come in for the interview, has scans through their Twitter account kind of thing. If you give the impression or suggestion that Twitter is poo-poo, I'm not interested in it, I think you're dead. Okay? That's why I actually do believe that Twitter can be more beneficial for you in job search than LinkedIn. That's another discussion we could have at some stage, okay? But if you're not on Twitter, I would encourage you to just Google on the Bing, okay, for phrases like how Twitter can help my job search. Because in terms of getting contemporary information as what's happening with your target companies, there's nothing better out there. And I also do believe that I've wrote an article on this or blog on this at one stage. The title was The Most Impactful Thing You Can Have on Your Resume. And does anyone want to guess what the most impactful thing you can have on your resume is?
Your Twitter handle.
Your Twitter handle, right. Do you want to kind of articulate why you might say that?
Well, I heard you speak before.
Right, yeah. Okay.
Just for that point that you're included in.
Yeah, you're clued. I mean, here's the thing. You're a recruiter. You don't put your age on your resume, but your recruiter knows what age you are or age group you are. If you put something like your Twitter handle on your resume, you are suggesting immediately this person is at least half clued into what's happening. Okay? Now, I do believe everyone here should be on Twitter. I do not suggest that anyone needs to tweet anything. Okay? But what I'm saying is that get onto Twitter, and each of the companies that you're interested in, follow them. Each of the thought leaders in your field, follow them. Each of the associations that are related to your companies, follow them. And you'll find other areas to follow as well. And if you just start following those, you can say if you follow the company, you can then walk into the interview and say, I noticed on your Twitter feed this morning that you've introduced a new product to the marketplace. That's saying two things. One is that this person actually does their research. Two, it is that they have some idea what social media is about. That's why it says you should be on Twitter. I'm not asking you to tweet anything, but it's brilliant for incoming. So, going back to, and that's what I mean by contemporary. So, how to ace the ageism thing? What will I add to the company? All right. So in a sense, it goes back to what do I want to be famous for? What are the three attributes? C is for contemporary, right? And E is for energy. Does this person come across as being energetic? Now, I don't necessarily mean it has to be energetic in a physical sense. I mean it has to be energetic at least in an intellectual sense or in an inquiry sense, okay? Is there something about this person that says they can add something to the organization? They can add something to the atmosphere or the vibe in the organization? So those three things I would ask you to consider. How can I ace this ageism issue? Right. Final story I'm going to leave you with. Have you found this useful?
Yes.
Right, okay. Now, here's the issue. Some of you will do something with it, and some of you will not do something with it. Okay? But things ain't going to happen just because you want them to happen. And the way I'll address that is I'll tell you a little story about Patrick, who was a good living Irishman. And Patrick ran into some financial difficulties due to gambling, womanizing, and drinking. So the Irish definition of good living is pretty broad, okay? Patrick's granddad dies. Patrick goes out to the granddad's house to clean out the house. And after he's cleaned out the house, he goes out to the garage and he brushes, as he's cleaning out, he brushes against a lamp. And out of the lamp pops a... No. A leprechaun, thank you. Yes, get with the program. Okay, all right. So the leprechaun says, Patrick, I'll give you one wish. And Patrick says, leprechaun, if you let me win the lottery, I'll pay off all of my debts, I'll give the rest of it away to charity, and I'll make a major contribution to the networking groups, which are now called business development groups in the local area. And the leprechaun says, hey Patrick, I like your goals and vision, etc. I'll let you win the lottery. 1 week goes by, there's no lottery win. 2 weeks go by, there's no lottery win. And after week 3 and no lottery win, Patrick goes back out to the garage again, he brushes against the lamp, and out of the lamp pops a Yay, a learning audience. Yes, 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 yes. The leprechaun says, what can I do for you now, Patrick? And Patrick says, leprechaun, you told me I'd win the lottery. And the leprechaun says, Patrick, give me some help here. At least buy a lottery ticket. Now, there's a moral to that story. And the basic moral is that just because you want something to happen desperately, and I know each of you do when you're going through a pretty tough time, doesn't mean it's going to happen. But if you actually take these elements of the gift of God that we've covered here, but what do I want to be famous for? And make some effort to make it happen. If you make some effort at these business development meetings to be seen as helpful, you're going to help yourself significantly. And if you actually take these chaps' concept and get into the habit on a daily basis of complimenting one person, hearing the words thank you, addressing people with their names, using positive words and putting a smile on people's face, you're going to find 5 reasons to have the dopamine kick in to feel better about yourself. And when you do that, you're going to be able to walk into that interview 12 foot tall and bulletproof. The other thing I would say is that given the situation that you're in, if you're in relationships, this is a tough time. It really does put stress on relationships. Chaps works at home.